Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandeep Dosanjh, and I'm the secretary with the Calsper Executive Board. Thank you for joining today's session on Impact 360 degrees, 360 degrees, engaging communities for school bonds. And this was a highly rated session at our Calsper conference that was in March here in the Sacramento area. I work in the Rockland Unified School District, and um, also part of the executive board is Jackie Dillard. She's the president-elect. And presenting today, we have Rebecca Lorax with B43 Productions. She's been a communication strategist for over 18 years of experience in video production, and she specializes in the educational sector since about 2012. And she founded B43 Productions and has led her company to become a trusted partner for educational institutions, nonprofits, and allied organizations to deliver impactful visual narratives that drive community engagement. She's a proud member of CalSPRA and NSPRA and has partnered with over 100 different LEAs across the country. We also have Heather McGowan, and Heather's been in the school realm of school PR and public relations for 25 years with successful communications and marketing strategies for elected officials, education, and nonprofit organizations. She holds a master's degree in educational leadership, and she also has her APR. She's passionate about public education through proactive, creative, and strategic marketing and communications. And she has served as an APR chair for CalSPRA, and she's also a member of NSPRA and assists with their APR needs as well. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to both Rebecca and Heather.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar names or people who maybe I recall from, previous conferences and things like that. But if we haven't met, it's nice to meet you all today. Rebecca, was there anything you wanted to share?
No, not yet. I'll let you take it away and then I'll
All
jump in.
right. Sounds good. I'm just gonna take a quick moment to share my screen. This is a something that Rebecca and I we're gonna bring in a case study today that we'll share with you. But just kind of the general gist of what we're gonna be talking about today is really around how we can have utilize engaging communications in order to inform communities about the impacts of our school bonds. So often, and I was sharing this before our session began today with Jackie and Rebecca and Sandeep. I remember when I had to work on my first school bond communication when I was working for a school district, and they said, okay, we have this legal requirement to communicate with the public each year about the progress on our school bonds. They're like, here's our list of projects, here's some pictures, before and after pictures, and yeah, can you put it together? And I said, okay, well, is there anything more creative we can do with this? Because this just seems kind of dry. And they said, no, you know what? This is just a legal requirement. We just have to get it done. And so I remember putting this, communication piece together and thinking like paint, wiring, fencing, like how would that resonate with the community? And it was the most boring thing I ever had to work on. So this was actually this kind of was born out of like wanting to do something different. So today we're going to talk about, the overall impact of school bonds, the importance of promoting school construction projects in engaging ways, and doing that in a way where we share the impact on students, communities, and education quality. So often, right, when it's time for a district to approach the community with a school bond, more often than not, that community maybe received, again, these, required legal updates. Maybe somebody sat in on a facilities, master plan update or something to that effect. But more often than not, the last time they heard that the community heard from the district about a school bond was the last time they were asking them to approve a school bond. And so really what this addresses is, what did we do in between, right? How do we engage our community in between? So the next time we go out for a school bond, they realize the impact that this has on our students, on our employees, and on our community as a whole. So that's that's really where we're focusing this today. So, so how do we do that? Of course, I'm talking about the 4-step PR process, utilizing, the RPI, that's the research, planning, implementation, evaluation, and utilizing, goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics in that. We're also talking about identifying who our key, audience members are and their needs, and then defining our key performance indicators and required resources to do that. The case study that we're going to be presenting to you today is from New Haven Unified School District, and it was for Measure M, their $125 million general obligation bond. And their campaign was called Investing in Academic Excellence. And so they had a need to communicate out to their community what they had accomplished with their general education obligation bond. And so, as you can see on the slide, there were multiple types of projects. Probably some of these are similar to the ones that you guys have done or are in the midst of completing in your district. So as you can see, kind of on its surface, right? Like athletic spaces are kind of exciting. Everybody likes, new athletic spaces, new turf, awesome. Deferred maintenance, not so exciting to talk about, right? Like, okay, like who cares about deferred maintenance? I mean, that's like, me looking at my house right now and saying, I better replace the floors, right? Not always the most exciting thing. So how does that impact, children and their education? Energy efficiency, that's great. It saves money, but, again, it's important to talk about the impact of that and why, the district is a good steward of, taxpayer funds. Technology improvements, those are always, interesting. Replacement of portables, people, I think, kind of like that, especially since particularly Gen X voters remember learning in portables and learning that kids are learning the same portables they did, like the exact same ones, and having those replaced. That can be exciting too. But again, how do we talk more than just about buildings? So that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing that we did in the research phase was we wanted to align the campaign strategy with the district goals. And so we spent some time talking with we worked most directly with the district CBO, as well as their communications. They had a communications committee. And so we wanted to make sure that this aligned with their goals. We wanted to review those bond measure projects in relation to the district goals, but as well as their student outcomes. We wanted to gather some input through interviews with staff, students, and educators. This is something we weren't able to do. So this campaign and its research phase, we first started talking about it before COVID hit. That was in 2019. And then we started the process in the midst of COVID, and we weren't able to do a lot of input gathering, except when we did the interviews for the videos. So we'll talk about those in a little bit. And then we also just wanted to learn about each bond measure project, as well as their past communication strategies, so that we can understand what would work best with their community. And I would say that when we've developed the strategy, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we also had to make some adjustments along the way. And I share that because something that's really important when you're in the strategic planning process is that you may have an ideal and you want to make sure you get that into your strategy, but sometimes you can't do all the things that are in your ideal strategy. So you have to focus on what are the highest priorities that we want to hit. So I'm going to talk about that too a little bit, because sometimes along the way, we have to make those adjustments. So as you can see, the goals were, of course, to increase community awareness and support. We wanted to have communication penetration in the community. We also wanted to demonstrate the district's value, including bond measure projects to community stakeholders. We wanted to position the district and its schools as central community hubs, as well as exhibiting the district's value to the greater community. So those were our goals. The objectives, it was around increasing awareness. website visitors to their bond measure website and increase their social media engagement on their bond measure related posts. So the way we went about it was we produced a series of printed and digital collateral materials, or this was in the strategy. I'll tell you how we changed that. And then also to share via the districts and city communication channels. So what ended up happening along the way is we had to make some adjustments. So for example, the district decided to step back on doing printed collateral materials and just go take the digital route instead. So that was, from a financial resources standpoint, they decided after we got all the quotes and everything together for printing and mailing that they wanted to keep that out. That, of course, ran the risk of not hitting the community as a whole as an audience. The other part was that we were going to integrate within their partnership with the city and integrate some communications within the city's communications. And that was also, for reasons I was not aware of, they pulled back on that as well. But I wanted to share that in here, that was a part of the original plan that could have, expanded the reach. The tactics were around consistent key messages. So we developed those key messages. We utilized their communication committee to affirm those were the key messages they wanted to use. And then developing every other month academic excellence or investing in academic excellence e-postcards that they would send through their digital channels, as well as thank you banners around the district at the facilities where the improvements occurred. So I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca, and she's going to talk about the more exciting part, which is the storytelling, because that really was at the heart of this. So all the strategic stuff led us to this storytelling aspect. And so, Rebecca, I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. So the first thing I want to talk about is storytelling mastery. And I do believe that storytelling is at the heart of every impactful campaign. It's not just about sharing information, but really about creating an emotional connection, I believe. When crafting school bond videos, I try to focus on developing compelling key messages that resonate deeply with target audiences, whether that's parents, students, community members, or others. One of the most effective ways to convey the impact of school construction projects we found that is by utilizing storytelling techniques. For example, drone footage provides, we believe, breathtaking overviews of the upgraded facilities that we're able to build with the finances, showcasing the progress during the construction progress, provide a visual dynamic that you can't show any other way. And truly make the story relatable. We integrate emotional, factual elements into it that pairs well together with the testimonials from those who benefit the most and those who are involved in the projects as well. And the videos that we'll see shortly illustrate just how storytelling ties directly into that. Thank you. Are you slide 12? Okay, perfect. The process for creating the impactful videos is consistent across all genres. It starts with understanding and targeting audiences. Are we speaking to families, educators, local leaders? We need to identify that obviously first. Each group connects with different aspects of the story, so the messaging must reflect their unique perspectives. Creativity is vital. Instead of just showing technical details of a project, I try to focus on how the updates change lives at the core. For maker spaces, for example, it's not just a room. What is it? It's more of like a hub for creativity and exploration. Real stories and testimonials from students and teachers bring the spaces to life, showing the tangible impact rather than just showing the room for the sake of showing the room. One of the videos that we'll show you is about maker spaces, so we'll get to see that in action and how the improvements align with the district's goals, New Haven's goals, and the community support. And you'll notice how the approach can inspire both pride and excitement among those who are watching. Next slide, please. Yep, we're here. Okay. Thinking outside the box. Creativity and engagement are key to standing out. So thinking outside the box allows us to go beyond traditional approaches and connect with audience in memorable ways, showing emotion through students or teachers excited about how their updated spaces can evoke powerful responses. Pairing that with visuals that highlight progress and successes ensures that messages are both relatable and impactful and memorable. Providing impact is just as important as showing it, Incorporating those testimonials provide authentic voices to the campaign, whether it's a teacher explaining how a new lab has improved their classes or parents expressing gratitude for safer parking lots. The stories foster trust and connection. And when we're talking about things like parking lots, like how do you make a parking lot visually appealing? It's difficult. How do you make paint on the wall look, lack of a better word, sexy? So you have to be able to figure out ways to do that. So we were able to, take our drone and shoot it up against the wall and then turn it to the kids. It's just ways that you're able to make it visually appealing. You just really have to be creative in the ways that you do that. Otherwise, it could turn boring very quickly. The second video that we'll share is a thank you to the community, which is a message of gratitude that reinforces the district's commitment to stakeholders. We were able to use footage from all of the different themes because we did multiple themes that we'll show you later. We took bits and pieces of that, the most impactful statements, and created an overview, and then talked to the superintendent and had him strategically say certain messages that thank the community and made sure that we hit all the right points. So yes, let's see. Campaign implementation blueprint. I'm going to go over this one. Yes, Heather?
Yes, and yeah, feel free to punt it over to me if you would like to as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this one was fun for us because we had a lot on our plate at the beginning. And Heather and I remember way back when, way back when, before we started really delving into it, it's like, how do we combine all of this into something tangible that we can go out and actually capture? It was just a lot. So we came up with these themes, and then overall did one for investing in excellence. I believe that was the thank you video. So yeah, fostering innovation, future-ready students, engaging accessible outdoor spaces, schools of community pride. And then how do you create something visually appealing with all of this stuff? And that's what you'll see in the videos, which is kind of fun for my part, creativity-wise. The not so fun part is trying to manage that and have everybody be on board and be flexible. Going to how many schools were there? I don't remember how many schools there were, but principals, saying, yeah, you can come onto my campus and do this and that, and, trying to get interviews with people. It's a lot, but it could work out, obviously.
Hey, Rebecca, I
yes,
did have
sir.
a question.
Yes.
So when we define target audiences for bond measures,
Yeah.
do you keep it broad, such as every registered voter, or do you narrow it down to parents of school-age children? And then could you touch on the pros and cons of both?
I think that's more of a Heather question, I would say. But although when I ask the questions, I definitely try to target the questions based on, I guess, Heather's answer.
I would say, it depends on your budget and your resources, right? So, and the scope. So one of the things that we were working with was there was kind of a big question mark over, was this going to go in the city's communications? Was there going to be a postcard that was going to be sent out to the community? So those were the two big question marks that weren't answered when we commenced the video part of the project, the video production. And so we kind of had to work in the middle. With the idea that we were leaning a little bit more towards their parent audience, just knowing that seemed to be the way that the district was leaning with their communications, that it seemed like they were pulling away from the idea of doing broader outreach. And so we think we hit a really good sweet spot that, if it had gone out through their city communications, or if, the random, person who maybe decided to go to their bond measure webpage, which, is fabulous. Yeah, like maybe they follow their district's, social media or something like that, that could still work to them. And so you'll see in the messaging, for instance, like, thank you voters, for, XYZ. And so we really tried to kind of hit it upon that way. But then, but then also not assume things like everybody knows what maker spaces are, so, being able to showcase that and why they're important, why they're impactful to students. The same thing of schools of community pride. It's not just, our schools are, you know, we're proud of our schools, but saying schools of community pride so that the community realizes like these are your schools too. And so it's kind of like walking in the middle, which I feel like we sometimes have to do a lot in school PR, just because there is always like the you know the potential of, oh yeah, we're not going to do the postcard campaign now, you know, and oh, we're not going to, okay, here's our audience we're reaching. We've still hit that spot. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, that's the part, you know, sometimes, you know, we have to go into these, you know, some of these implementation aspects with those question marks over our head, and then do our best, you know, at straddling, you know, which audiences we're speaking to. Great question, Cindy. Oh, I'm going to go to the next slide there.
Let me just hit on one other thing if I could. Sorry. So I just wanted to say that we talked about this, but turning these ideas into action requires a clear blueprint. So that's why we wanted to really list all these out specifically. So we wanted to say, okay, what actually is involved in, you know, this fostering innovation maker spaces? So which schools have the maker spaces? Yeah, we know, but like write it down. And I think we decided not to include our messy notes in this, but it was a disaster at first, and then we were able to kind of like to get it manageable. But like you got to write down exactly where it is, who are all the players. So it's not just about showcasing the completed projects, but demonstrating how the improvements align with your goals and values as a district. So for example, rather than focusing solely on the technical upgrades, our videos emphasize how the projects directly benefit students and staff. So whether through increased safety, so like I remember the fencing. So yeah, we have fencing. So what does that mean? It's great. You have fences, you know, you're keeping people safe, but what is it a little bit deeper? Like, how does that affect people? You know, questions like that are easy ways to turn it into an impactful reason. And it just is it's a way to hook people in and make an emotional connection to people rather than just, oh yeah, great, we have fences, yeah, that's safe, we're safer now. Especially when people are maybe upset that there's a fence around their school and there hasn't been in 20 years, you know. So the two videos we're going to show demonstrate all of that in action, and how storytelling and video production can effectively tie messaging to those district goals, creating narratives that are engaging, relatable, and like I said, impactful. So if you want to transition to one of the videos, Heather, that would be awesome. Probably the Makerspace one first.
Yeah, I have these on another, here we go.
And these are all on their New Haven
on their website. Yes. Okay, here we go. I needed to find the correct screen to share. I needed to make my screen a little bit smaller. Here we go. And all right.
And the goal was to keep it 90 seconds, but I
think Measure M has given opportunity for a collaborative space. Many teachers have combined their classes together, like our music and science teacher. Makerspace has really helped with bringing equity and belonging into our campus.
Since last year was my first year here, going to Makerspace really helped me make new friends and learn new things, like how to 3D print or make pixel art.
I don't really put any restrictions on what they want to do. One of the projects we're doing is stop motion animation. So I let them build out all the props that they want, including backgrounds, the models of themselves, the settings, the environment. So they're using clay, they're using Legos, they're using paper, and it just allows them to just have complete creative freedom with it.
We are a school that has a lot of portable buildings, and having a new 21st Century Beyond facility really enhanced the appeal.
With that space, I've been able to create lessons and projects where students are applying the skills they learn and making something that's a real world, scenario, like building a scale model of tiny houses that they turn into a tiny house village, where they're learning perimeter area.
We had grid paper. We could use markers to outline the rooms, like a bedroom, a dining room, a kitchen. We could choose to do 3D furniture or 2D furniture. Once we finished it, we could do a WeVideo project.
We usually use this for our PTC meeting, for after school programs, for assemblies and stuff like that. We can move some kids and families in here. We actually got a vending machine for books.
the idea of STEM, really trying to make things fun and engaging and hands-on. Makerspace has brought in creativity. Makerspace has brought in kids having an idea and wanting to explore it, and us being able to provide the space to be able to do so.
Rewatching that now, thinking as I've grown, as you always do as a professional, I would think that what would be beneficial as well is to maybe top left corner, put every school, whatever B-roll that is, just have that there just to show how many that it's impacting. I think that would be helpful. Sometimes I don't do that just based on the fact that like, oh, well, what if we're only at, just politically or equitable wise, like what if we're only at, one or two schools and like, oh, well, so-and-so is not included. And then you got a political problem. But, and then there's also that, well, look at how many it's impacting, or maybe it's only impacting a few schools, who knows? But like there's pros and cons. But for that one, we did go to a lot of them. And I do have sometimes, again, for strategic reasons, I'll put their name of the school that they're associated with in under their name, or sometimes I won't. But that's something to.
Rebecca and Heather, we do have one more question. Did you write scripts for teachers and students, or did you guide them on what you were looking for them to say?
I literally never do scripts. I never do, unless it is a forced thing, which I try to talk my clients out of because it sounds very rehearsed and more difficult to do that. And I'm pretty good, very good actually at guiding them into saying, like, I understand their goal at the beginning of it. And so with that understanding, I'm able to guide them, make them feel comfortable. That's my biggest feedback is, oh, wow, you made me feel comfortable. I was really uncomfortable going into this and, we're done, and then at the end of it, I'm able to make them seem like they're flawless because thankfully editing tools and whatnot. And then, B-roll covers most of it anyway. So it is about knowing what is your end goal. Are you good enough? Are you able to, do you have the resources, the capacity, the tools, the people to make that happen? And if so, I would highly suggest going the storytelling way rather than the scripting way. Unless you have someone who's phenomenal at, not sounding scripted. And unless you have a 30-second spot and that's all you've got, then maybe you're forced to. But, otherwise I feel like it is more relatable when you just ask questions and then Lego it together, if you will.
Yeah, definitely asking like the right leading question, open-ended leading questions, like so that you guide them to the responses you want to hear. And if they start saying something that, hey, like they're starting to touch upon something that really maybe encapsulates the key messages you want to get across, like make sure, you can always, make sure you have that captured in the video, or if you need them to repeat it or expand upon it, like listen for that, in their responses as well. This is from me watching Rebecca do this, like behind the scenes over the years.
Don't be afraid to have them say it again. A lot of times people will say, so blah, 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 and they'll run their words together, or, and you'll say, hey, you just have to be very complimentary to them. Like, oh, that was so awesome what you just said. I love what you said. It's on the right track. Because people are very uncomfortable in front of the camera. We all know this. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I've been doing it for 20 years. But as long as you're complimentary, make them feel comfortable, confident in themselves. What they're doing is right. Oh, I know this is what you meant to say. Can I help? Can I help you a little bit with that? Because I'm hearing you, but maybe you're having a little bit of trouble kind of summarizing that. I think what I hear you're saying is blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, say it like that. And then it just like kind of shortens it up a little bit because honestly, you have to tell them, hey, you're only on screen, or you're only gonna be a like 20-second part of this. We're interviewing 7 people, That's the other part is you really need to keep it short. Most of the time, superintendents, assistant supes, whatever directors are like, oh, I got 19 people for you to interview. Absolutely not. 5, 6 max, maybe you got to say, okay, we got, who are the impacted people here? 1, 2 kids, if they can talk well, what grades, we got to mix it up a little bit. You got to think diversity of all across all levels, like ethnicities, grade levels, genders, all the things, obviously who it impacts. And then, that's the max. And sometimes superintendents want to be involved. You got to just check that off. They take off one one of those slots. But other than that, you got to keep it short. So you got to tell them, you're only going to be a short part of this. So yes, we may be here for 20, 30 minutes, depending on how long they, need, but we're going to cut it up and you're only going to be on screen for probably 5 seconds and a part of this for 30. So that helps kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's fine. Well, how'd you make me sound so good? Well, you are good. Just remember, you're good. And, it just makes people feel okay for the next time you meet them. Or, oh my gosh, Jackie has to be interviewed. Oh gosh, I don't want to be interviewed. Oh no, Rebecca's great. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna be awesome. And then it's just like leading them into more comfortability later if you have to be interviewed, or you just continue to like spread that across your district. So it's just less of a problem and a burden when you have to do it later.
Something too I want to touch on, I'll show you the other message. So this was the email messaging, and also this is the same messaging actually went up on their social media when they were posting their videos. And so as you can see, it starts off, it's all active voice, starts off with the thanks, to you, and then it varies in, as it introduces the video that's going to be shared. So you just saw the Makerspace one. The other one is the overview video. So again, you have that same kind of opening. This one provides kind of the overview of all, the things, right? All the projects. And then of course, after the video is introduced, it also has, it also encourages them to visit the website, the bond measure website. So the next one I'm going to share with you is the overview video. This one is a little bit longer because it's going to, kind of give you a little bit about each bond measure in a brief way, or bond measure project. Sorry.
Hello, this is John Thomas, Superintendent of the New Haven Unified School District, and I'd like to thank our community for all the support you give our schools. The way state funding works out, if we want to keep our schools as the cutting edge places that they need to be for our children, we really count on community support to help us with our building needs, and the bond measures that the community has supported over time have really made a difference.
I'm going to pause here for a second. Look at those asphalt improvements and new fencing, right? Like it's a lot more interesting when it's taken from above with a drone. Okay, I'm going to keep
Heather,
going.
make it full screen if you could.
Yeah.
Both in the past and currently.
We have been very grateful to have the adoption of Measure M. Thank you so much. We see everything that your money has given our site, and we're so glad that you supported our schools, and we see the impact.
I want to thank the community for having the investment in our school. The Measure M project really did help us to kind of get moving in the right direction.
I'd like to thank our taxpayers, our community, for passing Measure M. It's allowed for our school to look beautiful inside and out. It's allowed accessibility for all of our students.
We're very grateful. I know the kids really enjoy it. It's always nice to know exactly where your money goes and that it's very useful.
With your support, we've been able to foster innovation in our schools with makerspaces at all of our elementary schools and our middle schools. We've been able to create future-ready classrooms with things such as new technology and new interior spaces. Our schools now have outdoor spaces that are not only engaging for our students, but extensions of the classroom as well. Sustainability has been a priority in a lot of our projects, both with more efficient HVAC systems, solar panels, helps not only keep our costs down, but helps reduce our energy footprint as well. Making sure our schools are safe and—
I was getting the stop from Becca. Sorry, I forgot I had the pause button.
I just wanted to mention, can you go back just a little bit?
Yeah. Where would you like it to go?
Keep going a little bit. Just got to trigger my, okay, play it right there. Play it right there.
Foster innovation in our schools with makerspaces at all of our elementary schools and our middle schools. We've been able to create future-ready classrooms with things such as new technology and new—
Okay, so do you notice as well through the editing? I don't know if you guys do a lot of video. Do you guys, I'm not sure. I don't know who's in the room, like necessarily what your guys' positions are. But do you guys do, can I see your faces if anyone is, or maybe can you do like a raise hand in here or something? I'm not really sure. But I'm just interested to know like if people do video editing here. Hello, friends.
Does.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to just give some a little bit of video editing. Oh, nice. Hi. A little video editing tips for you. So if you listen to like their and interviewing. So specifically, like we knew the title going into this was investing in excellence. So I would say to my interviewees, like, hey guys, how do you feel like you are investing in excellence for your district? Specific words, and that way that they're able to, it's a consistent theme throughout the whole thing, and are you, because who's paying for this, right? The community, the taxpayers are paying for this. So this is a thank you guys for doing this. And hey, by the way, obviously we're going to have a bond measure sometime in the future, so you want to say thank you so that they maybe do it again. That's what it's a double purpose video from that perspective. But then also the editing that I wanted to point out was the reason that my videos I feel like are very easily ingestible. And I see this, occasionally I'll try to ask someone else to help me. Hey, can you edit this video? Even if it's a super simple edit. And I'm like, I just can't do it. Like I got to do it myself because high expectations and whatnot, but it's just not up to par because you have to edit on cadences, right? So the end of a sentence, change the frame there. You're talking about future ready. What do we see? A 3D printer. It sounds like it's, common sense, but not everybody, it's not you guys don't do this every single day like I do this every single day. So it may not be, if you're doing it yourself, just a tip, think about those little things. If someone's saying, we're investing in excellence for our students, boom, next shot. We're thinking about future ready projects, boom, show something that's something future ready. Don't do wide shot to wide shot to wide shot. Don't do, and I saw that I did it there, which makes me a little sick to my stomach, but I did this shot and then I did another shot like that. I'm like, oh, why? It must have just been because that's all I had. But, if you're going to do a pan this way, just for, again, ingestible reasons, you don't want to do that again. You need to have a wide, medium, or a tight, maybe a different angle. I do a lot of shooting down here, getting kids' faces, obviously media release, compatibility wise. Just color, all the things, diversity in all kinds of ways with shooting as well. Just remember, as many different shots that you can get as possible means that your videos are going to be able to be more dynamic, and you'll have more shots to use. And you really don't want to be on any shot more than 3 to 5 seconds ever, if you can avoid it. Just some tips.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll go, and then if there's anything else you want to point out.
Schools now have outdoor spaces that are not only engaging for our students, but extensions of the classroom as well. Sustainability has been a priority in a lot of our projects, both with
solar
AC systems, solar panels, helps not only keep our costs down, but helps reduce our energy footprint as well. Making sure our schools are safe and secure, there's probably nothing more important that we've done than that. And what you've seen in a lot of our schools is new fencing. We have new security camera systems going in, competitive athletic facilities, James Logan High School in particular, as you know, but also our other schools as well, CCMS and IVCMS, pride themselves on having elite athletic programs, but also programs that are accessible to the majority of the kids that want to play. So those facilities have been upgraded because of your support as well.
Thank you to all of the contributors for supporting Measure M and supporting our students and our future.
When you're ready to record, you hit the record button.
Press play. Pause one more time.
The Union City community.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to mention as well, if you're able to use any what's called sound on natural sound. So you come from news, Sandeep? Yeah, so so you're like, yeah, I know what she's talking about. So this natural sound. So I'm close with my natural microphone that I have connected to my camera, but you're able to use little bits and pieces, little natural pops in the story that help break it up too. So if you have a piece of video that or a piece of sound that from your interview that's a little poppy, and you want to break it up and make it not sound so obnoxious, if you will, you can throw something like this in there that kind of masks it, and then it also adds a little element to the video that makes it better. So hearing her talk, bringing you into the classroom a little bit is a nice add. As well as if you notice the microphone, sometimes people, I'm not sure if it's out of laziness or out of ignorance, but they just put the microphone on top of the shirt, and it's just really not aesthetically pleasing. So it only takes a second. So just have them put it underneath the shirt, put it on the collar, have it facing the way that you're speaking to them, not away from them, because then if the mic is over here and you're speaking to them this way, then that doesn't make sense. So just have them have it right where they're speaking, and then underneath the shirt or on the collar, try to hide the wire.
It's so awesome, like just a few extra steps to help make things look natural, right? And more authentic.
To the Union City community and our family outside of these walls for the Measure M and passing those bonds and getting what we need to stay updated and educating our kids in a way that they will enjoy.
I'm just really thankful. We're really thankful as a team and a program for everything that you guys got us with this field and all the equipment and facilities we have.
You know, when you talk about solar panels, when you talk about lighting, when you talk about HVAC products, when you talk about new fields, cafeteria design, I couldn't possibly name everything without community investing and approval of these bonds that pop up. We just could not do it here as a district.
Again, I'd like to thank you for all of your support. Your support has made our schools and classrooms safer. It's provided our students with equitable access to cutting-edge technology and improved our indoor and outdoor learning spaces. So thank you for all of your support, and we look forward to your continued support of our schools in the future.
And it wasn't ideal to have him in that space like that, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do with the limited time that you have. He had nothing prepared whatsoever. I came up with it on the spot. It was a bit of a hot mess, to be quite frank, but things often are, and we make stuff happen. So we were able to get through it, and it actually won an award. So that was awesome. And you know, that you saw that there were a variety of lengths and, you know, different, you know, some were closer, some were wider, some were looking directly into the camera. Ideally, they'd all be similar, but at the end of the day, as long as the story is engaging and compelling, I don't think it necessarily matters for what we're doing. I don't know if you'd agree, but.
So those are our examples from the New Haven bond measure campaign, or not bond measure campaign, but thank you campaign. And, you know, one of the things that I want to mention is one aspect of the strategy that it wasn't included in what I shared earlier, but it was in the original strategy, was actually for them to do some type of kind of bus tour with elected officials and, you know, community leaders. Again, because of a lot of the unknowns with like COVID and restrictions and things like that, it was something that they weren't able to incorporate at the launch of this. It's something that I, you know, advise them to keep in their back pocket because again, like, you know, we were really, you know, Rebecca, you know, particularly was really intentional about bringing people in, you know, acknowledging the fact that, you know, that makes it more interesting. It describes the impact better. But even those in-person opportunities to really showcase this, because how often do these folks, you know, come to your school district facilities, right? So that's something I would definitely advise folding into this type of impact campaign. So, you know, we talk about, you know, we have video, which is, of course, very visually appealing. But the other thing is that the district had gone through a recent rebranding. And so we made sure that we engaged the district's, you know, its colors, its branding into of course, as you saw in the video, and then, of course, in their email campaign. You know, and utilizing high quality graphics, of course, is always advisable. I'm probably preaching to the choir on this. You know, if you can avoid stock photography and instead have your own photography, that's always advisable. And having high quality videos, it shows how professional, you know, you are as a district. Sometimes I think sometimes CBOs think like, oh, well, you know, it makes it look like we don't need money when we do things really professionally. But I think in this day and age, you know, we're in a consumer market. Doesn't matter, you know, if you're speaking to parents, community members, you know, and whether you're selling, you know, a child's toy or your schools or bond measures, people expect. They expect professionalism and polish. And so, and it just makes it that much more compelling, and that they're not thinking about like, oh, this was, you know, a shaky video or these were stock photos. I can tell because I saw another school district use them in a publication, right? So a lot of the things that make it less polished and professional actually distract your audience. And so, you know, this type of approach to having everything dynamic and professional looking really helps to zero in on your messaging and on the impact, you know, stories that you're trying to tell. And so another thing I wanted to share, again, this wasn't part of their campaign, but it just so happened that I think it was after we had finished the videos and getting everything ready to launch for their campaign. I happened to be touring Stanford University, and they had a number of different construction projects going on. And what I really loved, and let me see if I can get the slideshow and then zoom in on this. But what I really loved was on the fencing around these projects, they had messaging. So this one said collaborating, creating, and innovating to address today's most urgent challenges, and it described what kind of new complex they were building there. I think it's their data science and something complex, and they had other messaging that was really describing what the impact of this building was going to be, not only on the students but like on the world, right? And so that was something I thought, like, wow, that would be really cool. Instead of a thank you, measure, thank you for passing measure whatever, like, why not have like banners on your fencing that describe what the impact of those construction projects will be on your community and on your students and your district as a whole. The other thing that that they did really well was, instead of having a, bond measure updates page, your standard, facilities page with the list of, things, they were telling stories about what these projects were going to accomplish. And so that's another thing that I found, just again, inspiration, because I can't walk around anywhere without getting inspiration for PR, school PR, but just a couple of other ways to build some impactful elements into, your storytelling and your messaging. And then, of course, this is, utilizing your online and digital platforms. You could, also utilize some different strategies for maximizing your reach and engagement. And so, beyond the video, you could even ask, people to share their stories about, how has this, how has the how's your child enjoyed the makerspace? Send us your stories, and we'll post them on, or, we'll post your testimonials. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to, make this an engaging and continue to share the stories of impact. And then, again, you want to, you track your success. So this kind of gets into your evaluation portion of your, strategy. And so, you want to find different ways to track awareness building and attitudes. You could always do a survey with your, your community to ask them, in comparison to, December 2023, maybe before you started your campaign, to now, how much more aware are you of our bond measure campaigns, or our bond measure projects, and you can do some tracking that way. Utilize your social media, analytics, utilize your analytics on your website, track views, on YouTube, or whatever video platform that you're utilizing. And then along the way, make adjustments, because you may find, after the first couple of e-postcards go out, or the first couple social media posts go up, you might find that there are some things you might have to tweak. And that's the beauty of a lot of things with digital, at least, is that you can make some tweaks along the way. Or if you're planning a print mailer in the future, that you might have to make some adjustments, maybe on messaging or how you're engaging people. So in this campaign, I just wanted to kind of just let you know what metrics we utilized. This doesn't mean these are the only metrics, but this was kind of based on what was available for us to measure. So part of it was, comparing social media and website metrics being before and after the campaign. We wanted to see an increase in community awareness and website visitors, and an increase in social media engagement. And so we assessed that 6 months into the campaign. 6 months, if I remember correctly, I think they had gotten out 2 of the messages they were doing every other month on the e-postcards, and there were 9 videos, altogether. And so one of the pieces of information that I did not have was being able to compare that to prior to the campaign. So unfortunately, this is one of those things, like whenever I talk about the APR panel presentation process. If I had to do this all over again, I would have asked them for their metrics prior to the campaign. There was a little bit of finagling to get these kind of metrics, so I, in general, so I was able to actually just take a look on my own. But they had a number of different views. I would say, their Instagram and YouTube, there was a lot of plays on their Instagram, which was great. That just that let us know that beyond YouTube, they were definitely getting views on their videos. And then these are just some key takeaways from today. We do have some resources that are going to be emailed out to all of you who registered today. And so there are also some handouts that we used at last year's CalSPAR conference, but also some things that include these key takeaways. So first of all, you always want to lead with strategy and not just tactics. People might say, oh, let's just do a postcard. And you have to ask yourself, okay, we need to put together a strategy. So we know what we want to accomplish with this. We want to align this with our district goals. We want to establish our own goals for this campaign. And then the tactics you can develop from there. And of course, align that strategy with goals and objectives. You want to share the impact and not just a project list. This is an area that, you may have to have some, deep dive conversations, maybe with your facilities director or CBO if they're not an impact sharing kind of personality, right? So there's always different personalities. You might get a CBO who's like, I'm all about this. I'm all in. Let's do this. And then you might have some folks where you might need to maybe do a little bit of negotiating with them. And sharing impact can come through video, graphics, social media, right? Tours, as I mentioned before. As Rebecca shared earlier, stories tell impact. They're the best way to do it. You always want to evaluate and measure results, have visual appeal, and then, bring together a strong team to utilize multiple talents. It doesn't have to be just you. You can look internally, you look externally where possible. And, you also have the different people who, you might have some major bond measure ambassadors within your own district who would be great to include on that team, who would also wave the flag for sharing impact, right? So those are also people to include on the team. So you have your talent team, you have your ambassadors, and you can bring all of that together. So that is it from us. So we want to say thank you for listening to what we had to share today, but also wanted to see if anybody had any additional questions.
Yes, I did. I actually saw the New Haven videos when I was putting together like a thank you video as well for a measure this summer. We just got our new measure voted on. And my question was like, I really want to be on top of now this new measure and like letting the community know, because we obviously didn't do that last time. Issues I ran into with the previous bond measure and making that thank you video is like we had new principals at the schools, or some of those, turf fields or whatever were, implemented like 4 years ago. So it's like that emotional connection wasn't really there because they're like, oh, well, I don't really know, or I wasn't here. I don't know how it looked before. So going forward with the new measure, would you advise maybe like interviewing these people like right when we do have new buildings and things, so like the impact and like emotional connection is there, and then banking those videos until like the whole measure is completed? Or
I would say banking, but also, release them, as you're going along. So now, as you're doing this, it gives you an opportunity to do some ongoing communication with your community, which that's the piece of this that, I think a lot of times we kind of play catch up on, connecting with our communities on this. And instead, it really should be a part of your ongoing communication process. So one thing I forgot to share was, what we did build into the overall communication strategy for this as well was, I said, okay, well, in your regular district newsletter, because 9 videos, that you can't stop there, so, what kinds of updates are you going to continue to provide to continue to share the impact? And so that was built into their strategy. That's something that they've taken on their own. So we weren't a part of that continuity process, but yeah, I would say build it into your annual communication plan. And then that way, you're continually updating the community and think strategically about, okay, how do we want to get, you have those annual updates you have to provide to your community, right? How do we want to do this in our annual updates? And it could be leveraging, partnerships with your city, so that, they can maybe help you get the word out through their city communications. If it's something that you have to do through the mail, maybe, so one of our ideas with this print element was we would have the campaign messaging, that initial, what you saw in that first email, New Haven schools, are thriving because of you, thanks to you, but then having like a QR code and a website people can visit to learn more. And so that way too, you can track, who's visiting and, where they're coming from as well. So yeah, definitely. It's a great question, because you're right. People, they're, it kind of wanes after, a few years. They weren't there when it happened. Yeah, that can be a risk.
I also try to, when people kind of give me the halt or the hard nose, I'm like, okay, well, how else can I ask a question that potentially could, benefit this video? So I'll turn it around and be like, well, how do you think this could impact the kids if you didn't have a good field? Like if they were playing on dirt instead of turf or whatever it is, like how do you think this would impact them? And then like, oh shoot, well, that would really suck. Like if we didn't have this, our kids wouldn't, whatever, and then ask your best friend, ChatGPT. He comes in handy, or she, whoever, comes in handy a lot. So like if you're stuck like that, and if you have to do something or have to get something done, literally pose that question to ChatGPT, and I promise you they will come back with something helpful. And just throw that question out to them.
Great point.
So I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you again, Rebecca and Heather, for this amazing presentation.